have one thing in common. We're all going to die. Do you have an estate plan? Eamon Gantner and Capriano, YourEstateMatters.com. The choice of an attorney is an important decision that should not be based solely on advertising.
News, traffic, and the latest from the world of sports. This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
All right, welcome to Rush Hour Sports here on KMOX. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here on Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yesterday messed me up because it was like a really long and kind of just winding day with the press conference early and all that, and I just I got off track. But now I'm back on track. Thanks to you, Matt. Thanks for helping out.
I was telling my wife last night when I got home that yesterday actually kind of felt like the end of the baseball season for me because the last 2 days have felt like day game days.
Yeah, you're right. Because you had the Mo on Monday.
Being at the ballpark, doing stuff, getting out here, around 8 o'clock or so. So happy
welcome back to normal, buddy.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the life of a normal human. You will once again be trapped come spring training.
Yes.
and trapped in a good way.
Yeah.
I've been there. I know it.
Yeah. You can be trapped in good places.
It's good. It's just a lot is all.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. All right. So we got stuff to work through. And if you guys want to join in, it's not hard. Just jump in on the chat. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, you just throw in your comments right there. We'll be happy to address those. You can text 314-436-7900. Still got a lot to come back to that we couldn't get to in an hour yesterday, although you got to a lot more of it. With Sports Open Line later in the day than I was able to with that's not true because I got a lot on DGS too. I guess I just have a lot to say.
Just a plug for Sports Open Line real quick.
Yeah, what do you got?
Yesterday, it was really all about listening to Heim. Today, it's more about reacting to what we heard.
Yeah.
So for folks
a little time to process stuff.
So we didn't really do a lot of text messages and phone calls and things like that on Sports Open Line yesterday. We've got time is not an issue right now in terms of having Sports Open Lines and being able to talk through things. So yes, it was more immediate yesterday, but I would tell folks that today is going to be more of an opportunity to have that conversation.
Yeah. So we got a lot to do. I think we'll start off with a couple of just remaining thoughts from yesterday. Some things that, as we talked about yesterday, we're hearing after a lot of the other separate interviews happened. You don't hear everything in the press conference. Some thoughts on like Gorman and Walker that we didn't get a chance to talk about yesterday. And of course, we'll probably talk a little bit about Albert, who may be the Angels' next manager, which will be an interesting thing to pay attention to. So we got a lot to do. And I want to start with some of the stuff that kind of remaining thoughts from yesterday, maybe some things we didn't cover enough ground on. But I do want to do this. And I'm sorry, Steve, I'm not going to be too mean. I'm just going to make a joke. Who sent us a message that please don't chastise us for not loving Ollie. Two things. One, can I chastise you for being a baby? No, I'm kidding. That's the joke part. But can I say nobody's chastising you for not liking the manager? When there's any kind of complaining, chastising, arguing on our side, I'll speak for myself on my side, it's that the arguments being made are not rational.
Right.
And it's not about, you don't have to like him. Nobody's telling you have to like him. Nobody's telling you have to think he's the right guy long term. Just stop acting like he's the problem because he's not. The roster is.
Yeah.
And I laid this out on Twitter yesterday with, again, going back and forth. None of this is angry or heated, but I am going to go by evidence and not just my feelings. And the evidence shows that the team is what the accumulation of the players are. The Cardinals had 3 of the 15 worst starting pitchers in baseball this year. Eric Fetty was the 4th worst pitcher in baseball. Palante was the 7th worst. Michaelis was the 15th worst. So 60% of your rotation was made up of bottom 15 starting pitchers. And you had one guy hit 20 home runs. One guy, and he hit exactly 20. He didn't hit 40. He didn't hit 32. He hit exactly 20. This team produced what it should have based on the talent. And keep in mind, we know for a fact that the manager wanted to make a change in that rotation much earlier than the change was allowed to happen because the front office didn't want it to happen. The front office didn't let the manager replace Eric Fetty with Michael McGreevy. In part, and maybe I blame ownership on this, because they wanted to try to salvage some money out of the situation, which they did. But salvaging that money cost them wins.
I saw a tweet last night. I sent it to you. It came from the Cardinal Stats and Facts Twitter account, which is a pretty good account. So I'll read from that. The last time the Cardinals didn't have a player hit more than 20 home runs, 1992. The last time the Cardinals did not have a pitcher with 20 starts and an ERA under 4, 1995. And this is the first time in the history of the organization where they can go back and look at the numbers that the Cardinals did not have each of those things happen, where the Cardinals did not have a player with more than 20 home runs and did not have a starting pitcher with under 4 ERA and 20 starts. It's never happened before. Never. And it happens this year. So, and you know what? I'm actually, when people are critical of Oliver Marmol, they don't like Ollie, and I say, why? And they go, I just don't like him. I can actually,
that's fine.
I accept that.
Yeah, totally fine.
What I don't accept is when I say, why don't you like Ollie? And then somebody presents information that is like factually incorrect or wrong, or look like if you don't like Ollie for bad reasons, that frustrates me. If you don't like Ollie just because you don't like him,
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not even sold on him. I'm just not blaming him for what's not under his control.
Right.
You know, I don't know if he's good. And I get it. I get that there's a standard that people in St. Louis want the best. That's okay. You keep that standard. That's
and
how
Heim totally drove into that yesterday, that they should be leading the industry and everything.
Yeah, and you keep that standard because that's how you keep teams accountable. Believe me, when that came up yesterday, right? When it came up at the press conference, you know, the question about, you know, fans and empty seats and people being unhappy, they're like, oh yeah, message received. Mm-hmm. Like, they get it. You guys sent the message. That's how it works. If you're unhappy, you let them know. And you don't go and you don't spend your money. They know it. And that's good. Nobody's going to tell you not to do that. But if you're going to come at me, whether it's, you know, because I got people get mad at me when I criticize him and criticize the team. So I don't know. I guess maybe that means you're doing it right if you're getting yelled at from both sides of an argument. But I don't care about the emotion of it. And unfortunately, a lot of the reaction is emotional, which is somewhat understandable because our allegiances in sports are emotional. Mm-hmm. And I think that you have to work to take the emotion out. I mean, I can give you any number of comparisons to any other managers in Cardinals history or whatever. I mean, Bernie did this a year ago this time, that Ollie Marmol and Tony La Russa's first 3 years as Cardinal managers were almost identical in terms of the one-loss record. And that's probably still somewhat true even now.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's going to be TLR. Nobody's going to be TLR. He's one of the goats, man. You're not going to be that. That's not the point. The point is, even one of the greats who had already won a World Series, who had already shown that he could run a dynasty. You know, Oakland was a little bit of a mini dynasty, but it was a dynasty for 4 or 5 years. Even though he had that in his past already, it didn't hit right away here. Why do you think that was?
Players.
Because they didn't have the players, man. Yeah. When he was in Oakland, and when they had the players, they won. When they didn't have the players, they didn't win. And that's true of Bruce Bochy. Bruce Bochy had this year a much bigger payroll, way more star caliber players. He had Jacob deGrom. He had Corey Seager on that team, and they finished worse than the Cardinals. And why? Because the players were either bad or hurt.
Yeah, and
not because of Bochy.
Cardinals fans who don't like Oliver Marmol would die for Bruce Bochy.
I would too, by the way. I would make that change in a heartbeat, but that's not on the table.
No, Bochy's not coming here.
Yeah.
And I made this point to you earlier. If you just traded the Cardinals' best pitcher for the Rangers' best pitcher, if you just traded Sonny Gray for Jacob deGrom, the Cardinals might be a playoff team.
You'd be at least, and again, that's not a knock on Sonny.
Yeah.
Like deGrom's just that crazy.
Right. That's the point I'm trying to make, is it's not like just taking a random person and just inserting them, like just trading position. And I'm going to talk about this more in Sports Open Line today, but yesterday, Bill DeWitt III said message received when talking about the fans not showing up. Today, a large portion of the social media active Cardinals fans, I think, have weaponized that statement, because with Ollie coming back, it's just been this influx of, well, we're not going to show up next year. You're not going to see us at Busch Stadium until Ollie's gone. So it's been very odd for me to watch how a statement made yesterday has been weaponized into a vocal minority, but a really vocal minority saying they're not showing up.
There may be a time when we finally do have a good enough roster where we find that he isn't good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, and if that comes to time, we'll talk about it. But
we're not saying that managers make no impact.
This is just like, to me, this is like evaluating your kid in a class when you are 2 semesters into a 4-semester school year. You have to give the kid a chance to finish the work. So if your kid is getting a B instead of an A and you think your kid is an A student, well, let him have the chance to make himself an A student. You don't punish him halfway through. You let him finish. And I think that's all it is. That's all it is. No matter, and that's true for a player. I'm making the same argument that I would make for Matthew Liberatore, that I would make for Nolan Gorman, that I would make for any player that is still in the developmental stage of their career. It's just a matter of letting them get to where they have all of the tools. Like, look at the Cardinals system. This Cardinals system, the minor league system, didn't have the tools.
No.
They didn't have the equipment. They didn't have the bodies. They didn't have the minds. They didn't have a diversity of views. They didn't have new thinking people who understand training modern hitters and pitchers the way that other teams do. And that set the players back. So am I going to blame those minor league players? Am I going to blame Joshua Baez because he didn't start to show signs of developing this year? Or am I going to say they didn't have the tools to help him?
They didn't. That we should actually be making a bigger deal of just how much stuff, how many resources they did not have in the organization to allow players to become the best version of themselves.
Yeah. And also, I threw this out there yesterday, and then we'll stop the Ollie stuff because it's annoying. This also, if you're one of the people that dislike him and think that he should be out, just keep in mind that this may be as simple as the new guy in charge, Chaim Bloom, seeing that this is still a rebuild and not knowing for sure which direction he wants to go and letting this go one more year with the guy that's already there. Yeah. I don't know that. It doesn't sound like that. It sounds like Bloom likes him. And that's the other part. We're not going to talk about this, but I would just say give the new guy a chance. He literally just got here.
Right. Don't
start questioning Bloom already because you don't like what happened with Mo. They're not the same person.
They're
incredibly very different. So I guess that's basically the main thing is let that guy have his benefit of the doubt until he shows us he's not deserving of it.
Yeah.
And if he shows us that, guess what? We're talking about this like we did with Mo. All right, we're going to change gears. I want to talk about what Chaim Bloom had to say about Gorman and Walker because they're guys that are constant conversations. And I'll be curious to see what he means by what he said. And we'll talk about what he said about specifically those two guys because they're still a big part that they have to evaluate moving forward. We'll do that next up on Rush Hour Sports.
Looking for a place to call home without all the maintenance?
could see experts you can trust.
Hear that? Sounds like simple. No appointments. About 15 minutes to change your oil. Then out the door and back to life. Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Simple.
This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
All right, Rush Hour Sports on KMOX. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Still kind of going through all of the information we've gathered in the last 30 hours or so. There's a lot, and there was a lot said. There's been a lot written since those press conferences yesterday, and that's why there's still meat left on the bone. That's kind of what we're getting through. I want to talk about specifically Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker and the things that Chaim Bloom talked about. Not during the press conference with those guys, but in the conversations that he had with writers and broadcasters after the fact. And he clearly, those guys are they're still very young. I mean, for all the stuff we talk about with Gorman, he's still only 25, and Jordan Walker is still only 23. And he basically made the case that, look, here, in fact, here's his quote. I don't have to tell you what he said. Here's what he said. He said, "I still believe in the upside of both of these guys to perform." And he said, with Nolan, he's shown it in flashes, but hasn't been able to stay there consistently. He said, with Jordan, we have a good idea of what the adjustment he needs to make should look like. I give him credit for doing it midseason. I think it was something that you hope to see good returns on in season, but really the offseason is going to be the real test of trying to cement that and have it be second nature. So
runway season.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm writing that. I'm reading that, by the way. That's Katie Wu's piece on The Athletic where I'm reading it off of. But there's that right there doesn't tell us a lot about how they're going to handle it.
Yes.
It's just saying these are young players that we're not going to give up on. That doesn't mean they won't trade Gorman. I don't think they're going to trade Walker, because if you did, you're trading at the lowest possible point, and that's just bad management.
Right. And he makes very little money.
But what I'm going to be curious to see is how he handles this, how Bloom handles it, putting together the roster, and how he and the manager work together picking the lineups based on whether or not those guys show the ability to make the adjustments in the spring.
Yeah.
Because I can't see giving either one automatic time. I think you got to make them earn it. I mean, we've said this with Walker. I think it's probably true of Gorman, too. You got to go earn it. We know what you need to do. We believe you're capable of a lot, but you have to go show us in spring training, or you're not going to be with us.
It just frustrates me, because here we're having largely the same conversations that we had leading into the season. When we have this conversation, it feels like it was just a wasted year for Gorman and Walker. And I guess you learned something because neither of them did what you wanted them to do. But now we're back to talking about the upside of them and talking about this and that.
The only other choice is give up.
Yeah.
And move on. And if you do that and you're wrong, how's that going to look?
No, and I definitely don't give up on Walker for the reasons you mentioned, but I don't earmark him for the big league roster next year.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. He's not saying that either, though.
Right.
He's just saying we're not dumping the guy.
But with Gorman, it's big leagues are not here.
Oh, yeah. And if he's here, there'll be a spot next year. I think that's the thing that has to change. It can't be sporadic playing time like it was this year. He only had about a 10-week stretch where he was an everyday player?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to evaluate, and you want to talk about something I was mad at Ollie about. I was giving Ollie, how many months was I giving the manager crap about this? About telling me you can't get a guy in the lineup when it's just you won't do what it takes. You won't sit veteran players who might need to take a day off to get this guy in the lineup. So there's one of my examples of what I got mad about when it comes to the manager's handling of this, because he deferred. Well, nope, Arenado's got to play. No, he doesn't. He can sit. You can play Gorman, because you got to get those guys consistency. Now, Walker had consistency until he played himself out.
Right.
And that's a different thing. And I agree with you. I think the message to Walker would be, you got to show up in spring training and do these things, or you're going to have to prove it in Memphis.
And it has to be almost you have to really earn your big league spot. This can't be that you play yourself into a role in Memphis. It's that you have to play yourself into a role in St. Louis.
I agree. If I were giving Walker the end of season speech, it would be this simple. You have to earn a spot on this team next year. You don't have one.
Yeah.
And we want you to have one. We think you're going to be great. but you got to do the things we're asking you to do. You got to be able to catch damn fly balls. You've got to be able to put the ball in play and stop swinging at pitches out of the zone low and away. If you can't do those things, you can't be here. So do the things you need to do, and we'll help you. But I do think they have to take a harder line approach with it. Maybe not talking to him in an angry way, like I'm doing. But that same message needs to be delivered however you want to deliver it.
Yeah, and I think that message was outside of the we're taking your spot on the roster away. I get the sense that was a message that was being delivered to him, and I just don't know what the reaction to it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's going to be when you're working forward. I think, this is a little different thing that Bill brings in here. Bill Downton gives us a message, said this team needs offense, tired of glove only. Amen, brother.
Yeah. We disagree with Bill on a lot of stuff, but not on that one.
And look, that's another area where I have disagreed with both the manager and the front office vehemently.
Yeah.
You cannot have 3 or 4 glove-only guys. You can't do it. You will not win.
We talk about the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, they're a terrible defensive team.
Terrible. They're terrible. You know what? They got a bunch of dudes
They
who
hit
mash.
dingers.
Yeah.
They hit dingers, man.
Is it frustrating in the moment when a defensive play is not made by somebody who's not a very good defensive player? Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Are you going to lose a game every once in a while because of that? Yeah, you are. But are you going to win a whole bunch more games because of what that dude does with the bat? Yeah, and that's been frustrating for me. And we had this, and it's a funny argument to have now because we watched a season where Lars Nootbaar wasn't very good offensively, but we had this conversation so often about Nootbaar going to center field as opposed to first Michael Ciani and then Victor Scott II because you were just getting zero offense. And yeah, there's plays that are not going to be made. And in the moment, it feels crappy, especially in St. Louis, where there's a high standard for the way the team plays, but they have to be willing to give up some defense to get dudes who can hit.
Yeah, and get guys who strike people out, and that's how you balance it, which is what Philly has. They've got all kinds of pitchers that strike people out.
Yeah, don't give your fielders an opportunity.
That's
to make
right.
mistakes.
That's exactly right. All right, it's Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. We're going to get into the Albert Pujols story. It sounds like he might be the manager of the Angels. Good idea, bad idea? What does it mean? Does it mean anything big for Cardinals fans? Should you be worried about it?
Does it have Cardinal roster implications?
Could it? Could it have roster implications, even coaching staff implications?
And you know, the Rockies GM job just came open today.
It did. I don't get the sense that Mo's looking to do that.
No, but if he goes into some sort of special advisor, all of a sudden do some. Does a Randy Flores end up there?
You never know. That's a good point. Yeah, really good point. More sports. More rush hour sports. I almost said sports rush hour, which is weird. That's backwards. That's coming up after the news.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris
day, kitchen and bath.
This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
All right, Rush Hour Sports, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. We're taking you up to the top of the hour. We'll mix in some of your messages along with the continued conversation. And you can do that via Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can text 314-436-7900 as well. Matt, we were just talking about this. There was news about this last night. It's not done yet, but there was a report out of the Dominican that said that Albert was going to be the next manager for the Angels. That has not happened yet, but now the subsequent reporting is he's Artie Moreno's favorite.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's his choice.
Yeah, so the report in The Athletic today, and Katie Wu was one of the writers on the story today in The Athletic, Ken Rosenthal, and Sam Blum?
Sam Blum, I think.
Blum, okay.
Yeah.
Those were the three who did the report in The Athletic today. Basically said that it's Albert's job. If he wants it, it's up to his decision to make, and that Angels owner Artie Moreno has completely bypassed general manager Perry Manazian.
Yep.
And Manazian's status is now up in the air. If he's not even allowed to hire the manager, so who knows if he's going to stick in that job here moving forward. But essentially, the Athletic report has said if Pujols wants the job, it's his.
So before we get into the Cardinals, before we get into the nuts and bolts of what Pujols brings, and we got some comments coming in on it too. There are potential impacts on the Cardinals if he takes that job.
Yeah,
that have nothing to do with them missing out on Albert.
Yeah, it may make it a more desirable spot for Nolan Arenado. Those two have a relationship.
And
obviously they played together.
He does live in Southern California.
Yep. So that might just be the kicker. If Nolan's already talking about adding more teams to his list, that might be just another reason. And then obviously with Albert's connection to the Cardinals, you would think as he was building a staff and putting together things, there is a chance that people from the Cardinals could end up going there.
Former teammates, guys like Descalso and John Jay. Yeah. And, teams don't hold players back if they're getting promotions, right? So, Descalso would be a harder one because he's already the bench coach.
But
But he also only had a 1-year deal, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, some people I don't keep up to date.
I don't either.
On assistant coaches' contracts and how long they're. If you're expecting me to know that information off the top of my head, go somewhere else. That's not something I'm going to keep up with. But that being said, even if he had multi-years, just what I know about Ali, and maybe it's more than an Ali decision, it's a Heim decision and things like that. But I just don't get the sense that if Descalso said, "Hey, look, I really want this is a good opportunity for me," I don't think they're going to say, "No, it's a lateral move. You're not moving on."
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that anybody's going to necessarily go either. It's a possibility,
right?
Just one of those possibilities.
I think the Arenado thing is the more pressing thing,
and keeping in mind that some of that would have to do with whether or not the manager Albert would want the player, but who knows? But I would make it more attractive potentially to Arenado.
And Artie would just love.
And that's an Artie move.
Yeah.
And if he's forget Albert. If Albert's not there, if the Angels are on Arenado's list, that's an Artie move. Mm-hmm. Artie Moreno loves big names and he loves to collect them. So even without Albert, that's still an option if that's on Nolan's list.
I would agree.
All right, let's do a quick check of traffic. We'll get back to the conversation about Albert to Anaheim coming up.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, we got some trouble for Illinois drivers now. This traffic reports a service of Duke's Mayonnaise, eastbound 64, right at the 70 split. On the Illinois side, we have a crash. Traffic's backed up through Barack Obama Avenue. Downtown, westbound 44 is still pretty heavy between the bridges as well. We still have that crash on Olive at Old Bonham. Eastbound's backed up to Lindbergh. Westbound's backed up to Dealman, so still tough going through there. South 170 bogs down.
Brought to you by Duke's Mayonnaise.
This is the Duke's Country Song. It's a song about the best mayo. It has a yellow lid, and its full name is Duke's Mayonnaise. Get Duke's Mayo in store. It's got twang.
All right, back in on Rush Hour Sports. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here talking about the news that Albert may be the next manager of the Angels. Obviously, Cardinal fans are going to react to that. I get that too, though. Like Albert holds a special place here, and that will never change. Not because of the ending, but because of the ending and how special that was, but also because those first 10, 11 years were just unbelievable. They were not only great years for Albert's numbers, and he was one of the greatest hitters of all time during that period, but also the team won a lot during that period too. So that connection is super strong. I totally get that. And I totally get why Cardinals fans would want him in the Cardinals dugout.
I had a weird thing happen yesterday. I'm walking into the ballpark, and I'm walking by the Stan Musial statue. And for some reason, it hit me. Like, I think about this every once in a while, where Albert may have had that same statue if he would not have left St. Louis, if he would have played.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And I had like this moment of sadness yesterday as I was walking by the Musial statue, because I want to go to that alternate universe where Albert never leaves St. Louis.
Yeah, well, it would have turned out badly for the Cardinals.
Molina probably would have left.
Based on the contract.
Yeah.
And if they had paid him what
they offered him. But I'm not convinced
that
the numbers they put up in Anaheim would be the numbers he would have put up here.
I see no reason why it would have been any different, because it was all based on physical problems.
But we see change of scenery stuff.
It's not that, though. It was injuries.
Okay.
It was leg injuries. His legs went.
Let me have my dream, Kevin Wheeler.
Okay, in your dream world, that's possible.
Thank you.
Got a few different messages on this, as you would expect. Cole Bassett's left foot is back with us. What's up, foot? It says, if the Angels want to rebuild culture and reconnect with fans, Pujols is a compelling choice. I don't think culture is their issue.
No.
I think talent's their issue, because that was why they brought in Ron Washington. Washington had a reputation for being a culture guy, for being able to get buy-in and all that. Their problem is they don't have enough good players. And
guys can finally have cell phones in the clubhouse again.
Yeah, right. And here's the thing. Albert is not to Angels fans what he is to Cardinals fans. To Angels fans, he's the bust.
Yeah.
He's the big contract that didn't work.
Who is literally one of the worst hitters in all of baseball. Maybe the worst hitter in baseball.
For a couple of years,
yeah. During his time. During his time.
They don't remember him the way we do. Our love for him, and honestly, Dodgers fans too, even for that little bit, he was great for the Dodgers.
Yep.
I don't think Angels fans look at him the way that we do. And that's not a knock on Albert. It's just the way it played out. It was a big contract. And age and injuries caught up to the player. And if Albert never had leg problems, I don't think it would have fallen the way that it did. I think a lot of that was related. I'm positive that it was related to the foot and leg injuries and those constant problems. When you lose your base, you lose your bat. That's just the way it is.
I remember the Angels were in Milwaukee when I was working with the Brewers, and I was in the Angels clubhouse one day, and I saw Albert, and I went, holy moly, he looks old. Like the way he was walking, his gait, everything. And then it was pretty dramatic, because it was years later that he got to St. Louis.
Yeah.
And that was the next time that I was in the same room as Albert Pujols. And I went, wow, he looks younger than he looked years ago.
Well, he got healthier.
Yeah.
And then was able to work out differently and lost weight, took down some muscle and leaned out by the way, at the suggestion of Brant Brown, who was the Dodgers hitting coach at the time he was in LA. And was able to be healthy enough, but as a part-time player
until the end,
until the last month and a half. Yeah. So that's kind of what we all based our model on the Arenado argument about, right? It's kind of based on the Pujols model, that maybe sometimes less you're going to get more. We got another one here on that same note from Lauren. Said, hypothetically, if Albert was the manager for the Cardinals, do you think that some of the players that were playing in his era and are on the Cardinals now will listen to him as a manager? Yeah, for sure. Albert commands respect.
Yeah.
Lauren, I think for sure. That's not a doubt. The only questions with players like that when they go to become a manager, they're not about like respect from the players. It's not about that. And probably not even about tactics. Because you guys got to understand this. Tactics are not entirely the realm of a manager in Major League Baseball in 2025. The front office has a heavy role in that. You can not like it, but it's the reality in 30 cities. That is a universal thing. It's true everywhere. Milwaukee, L.A. Dave Roberts doesn't have the autonomy there. It's a group plan, and they all follow the same plan. But yeah, I don't think that would be an issue. In fact, I think that's the draw to Albert. The draw to Albert is that players will immediately go, "That's Albert Pujols."
Yeah, we do this Pujols Molina thing all the time.
Yeah.
When you look at and this is not a shot at Molina, because I mean, this is one of the smartest baseball players who has ever put on a uniform in the history of Major League Baseball. But when you think about the overall job of a manager and everything that goes into it, I think Pujols is more built to be a Major League manager.
In a lot of ways, yeah. Especially on the communication side.
Yeah, just everything.
Sure. Absolutely. And last thought, the left foot is back. He said Albert helped shape Mike Trout's early career and was a respected clubhouse presence. That's true. Yeah. That's not what the fans care about.
Right.
He's just not. He's not beloved by the fan base there like he is here.
And as great as Mike Trout has been, the team hasn't won a thing during his time.
No, and that's, yeah.
I mean, going back to when they...
Yeah. Not enough good parts.
Right.
Not enough pitching, mostly. All right, quick break. We'll come back and wrap up Rush Hour here on KMOX.
Welcome to Coffee House. How are you today?
Hi, great, thanks. May I get a sea salt caramel latte with almond milk, extra caramel, extra shot, iced,
gross,
and to go, please. Did you get all that?
No, I was just ringing you up for all the extras. Can you repeat your order, please?
Oh, never mind. I'm just going to go.
Stop paying extra for extras.
The Winghaven area, K to Winghaven, I guess a couple of slowdowns, and then approaching Prospect. Westbound Highway 70, that's still slow, 94 to Zumbel through Highway K, and then just A to Z in the Wentzville area. North and South 270 between Ladue and Point north of Manchester is still busy. Southbound begins at Olivet, Old Bonham. It looks like they wrapped up that crash. Traffic's just slow there now, not jammed. South 55 a little heavy at Bates. A backup south of Imperial through M midway down to Z because of that earlier stalled truck. I'm Roger Brand in the Michael's Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
Rush Hour Sports continues on 104.1 FM, KMOX.
All right, Rush Hour Sports. We got Sports Open Line coming up after the top of the hour. What do we got today, Matt?
Bernie Miklasz will be on at
Nice.
6:20. Daniel Guerrero will be on at 7:20, and we're going to give our listeners and viewers a chance to call in, text in, tweet in. And yesterday was the Let's Listen to Heim Day. Today is the Let's React to What Heim Said Day.
I didn't ask you earlier. Did we get texts on the text line other than the messages on the stream?
If I had the text line open, I could answer that question.
I didn't even think to mention it. So if we didn't get it, we didn't ignore you on purpose.
It's literally not open on my computer.
We just didn't have it ready to go. Bad radio hosts. Bad radio hosts. I'm always fascinated by kind of the off season as a general rule, right? Like the off season is always the time where you're going to get change. This team is going to change a lot. I would be shocked if the change on the roster is less than 30%.
Okay.
I would be shocked if the turnover on the roster is less than a third of the roster. So again, 26-man roster, let's say 9 guys.
Yeah.
I would think, and some of that's going to happen naturally. They're going to be, some guys that are just not going to be here.
Sure.
Maybe some guys don't make the team because you got to, the 26-man at the end of the year wasn't actually a real planned major league roster. Right, it was 3 guys short in the bullpen, just as an example. So I would say I would bet on at least 8 changes.
And I'm not so worried about the numbers. I'm just worried about
the fit matters more. Yeah,
that the Katie Wu report that of the 4 left-handed guys that we talk about so often, that 2 of them, at least 2 of them, are going to be moved. So if you do that, plus you move on from Arenado, there's 3.
Yeah, and Michaelis is probably another one.
Yeah. I'm just even just from this team's got to hit. I want this team to hit. Yeah. I know they got to pitch too.
You definitely have to pitch, but you got to miss bats.
Right.
And this is my biggest beef with how things have gone with the front office for the last 3-4 years. I've been talking about the pitching lab stuff for almost 5 years.
Yeah.
Because we've had them in our amateur building, where we're teaching junior high and high school players and working with college and pro guys in the offseason.
Right.
If we have those things at that level, a major league team needs to have them. You can't be outgunned by Vanderbilt.
So I think I've said this before. I heard Ali talk about this once, where a pitcher came into the Cardinals organization, had previously been in another organization, an organization that is known for making players really good. And that pitcher walked in and said, "Where's the stuff? Where's everything?
Where's the lab?"
Yeah. So it's been a problem, and hopefully it's getting better. Not hopefully.
No, it
is getting better.
You can see it in the we'll see more as they get closer to the big leagues, but you can see it in some of the progress in the minor league players.
Yeah.
You can see the progress of a Joshua Baez, and see a guy like Rainiel Rodriguez. These guys are starting to get some of the things they need. All right, Sports Open Line's coming up after the top of the hour. Have a fine evening, sir.
You too.
And welcome back to the normal world.
Thank you.
Now that the baseball season's over, Sports Open Line next on KMOX.
Wesley Financial Group is not all
85. Friday, sunny and 88. Let's get into the first weekend of October. The weather is exactly the same, but low humidity. Saturday, sunny and 88. Sunday, sunny, also 88. From the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Dave Murray on 104.1 FM. KMOX.
Right now, partly cloudy. It's 80 downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Come on, let's get going now.
From KMOX Sports.
We're primed and ready. All day, baby. Hey, let's go.
This is the Gray Bar Sports Open Live. Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. On 104.1 FM, KMOX.
On a Wednesday night, we get rolling with a Gray Bar Sports Open Line. My name's Matt Pauley. Great to have you with us today, taking you for the next 2 hours until 8 o'clock this evening. As always, if you want to chime in, multiple ways to get connected with the program, you can call or text 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. You can tweet at me, at Matt Pauley on air, MattPauley on air. And for those of you who are watching on the video stream, you can leave a comment in the chat, and we will address those as we go along through the program tonight. I mentioned this yesterday on the show because I know there were a lot of people yesterday who really wanted to give a reaction to the Chaim Bloom press conference, the exclusive interview that John Rooney, the voice of the Cardinals, did with Chaim that we ran on this show, my conversation that I had with Chaim, like all that stuff. And yesterday was more a day of taking it in, listening to what was being said. Today is more that moment, if you want it to be. Today's the more the moment to react to it. So we are going to take some time. We do have some guests on the show today, scheduled to be on with us in about 10 minutes. We'll talk with Bernie Miklas. Of course, he's a big part of what we do here at KMOX, also part of the team at STL Sports Central and doing the Cardinal Territory show alongside of Katie Wu. We're going to talk with Kaylin Kyle, part of the team with Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. She's going to join us at about 6:35 in the next hour. At about 7:20, Daniel Guerrero from the Post-Dispatch and STL Today will join us to talk Cardinals baseball. So we'll have maybe some time at the end of this hour, certainly some time in the next hour to take your phone calls, your text messages, and your tweets. And I'll be interested to know what you're feeling. And I mentioned this yesterday. I'll mention it again. Yesterday was an awesome day for Chaim Bloom. Yesterday was a really, really good day in his life. And no matter what, like Chaim's a super good dude. Super good guy. Before I'd even met him, and I talked to people that I know that covered him in Boston, like that was just what I heard, like how good and genuine of a human being Chaim Bloom is. And from all my interactions with him yesterday and before yesterday, seemed that way. So I was just, from like a human standpoint, I'm not trying to, this is going to sound like I'm shaming people. I'm not attempting to shame people. That's not the goal here, but it's going to sound like it. So I don't know. I just felt bad that yesterday got hijacked to the, Oliver Marmol is back. And that's going to be what we take away from this whole thing, which we knew that Ollie was going to be back. We knew. I saw messages. We got phone calls. We got everything from people saying, I don't think Ollie's going to be back. I think Chaim's going to fire Ollie. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And I could say I disagree. I don't see it coming that way. I'm pretty sure Ollie's going to be back. This isn't the moment for a managerial change. And it turned out that was right. But for people to turn the news of yesterday into a just focusing on who the club's manager is going to be for the near future, I was bummed that what gets lost in all of that is what this means for the long term. And that's what I want to hear from people today on, because I get it. I get that there is, I don't know if it's a vocal minority or a majority of people who don't like Oliver Marmol. I think it's a vocal minority, but I don't think it's a small minority. I don't think we're talking like 2% of the fan base. So I'd be dumb if I thought that. I'm smart enough to know that these loud voices that are coming from all over the place it's not a tiny minority. But I still think it's less than 50%. I still think less than 50% of Cardinals fans really, really dislike Oliver Marmol. But I don't know what the number is, but the number, it's still a sizable number. It's not nothing. I'm not being dismissive of who those people are and their numbers. And it is an extreme emotional pull on them of how much they dislike him. I get it. Okay. Like I know you're out there, but like that doesn't mean that meaningful changes in the organization are not happening. No matter, and we've thrown all the information out at you, right? We've thrown it at you. Marmol's got a better record than Tony La Russa through their first 3 years. And Kevin talked about this earlier. When you take Tony's first 3 years in St. Louis and the final 3 years in Oakland, and just look at 6 years of basically having a losing, like all this stuff is true. Like when you can compare Ollie to a lot of great managers, and you can make the argument that his early part of his career very similar to other individuals' early parts of their careers. Even that being said, I think everybody understands that no matter how good or no matter how not good your manager is, you win and lose most ball games based off how good your roster is, right? I'm not ignoring the fact that a manager can impact winning and losing. They can. Of course they can. If they didn't, then you wouldn't have managers. They can. And my belief, which a lot of people disagree with, my belief is that Ollie helps the Cardinals win more games than he helps them lose. There's people who hear me say that and they just start itching uncontrollably because they can't believe those words are coming out of somebody's mouth. Whereas, hey, you know what? I see some of the stuff said about Ollie on the other side of the spectrum, and I go, how can anybody believe that? So we're like-minded in our opposition to the other person's views. Cool. The roster's going to change. The player development is going to change. The focus on the skill sets of the players who are going to be on the roster are going to be changing. So whether you love Oliver Marmol or whether you hate Oliver Marmol, I think we all need to be open and accepting of the fact that things are changing in this organization, that Chaim Bloom and John Mozeliak are not that similar in the way that they're going to want to build a baseball team. And if you win and lose most games based off the talent on the roster, I don't know how long this is going to take. I don't think this is an overnight fix. I don't think they're winning a World Series next year. But I do think they're going to win another World Series, and I think it's going to happen under Chaim Bloom, and I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun once they get this thing rolling along. No matter who your manager is, those things happening are going to impact the team a lot, whereas who your manager is will have less of an impact than those other things. We'll continue this discussion as we go along through the show today. If you want to chime in, 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. That's how you call or text. You can tweet at me, at Matt Pauley on air. You can leave a comment in the video chat if you're watching on the stream. Up next, we talk with Bernie Miklasz. He's with us in just a moment as we roll on a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX.
We've been here 30 years, 30 Christmases in this house, and
That.
News, talk, cars. 104.1 FM KMOX.
It's Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley. We are efforting Bernie Mickles. Hopefully we'll have him on here in the next moment or so. We are taking you through 8 o'clock this evening. We've been monitoring what's going on in the Major League Baseball playoffs, in case you have not seen 4 games today. And certainly good for baseball when a Game 3 is forced, and that's what happened in both series so far. Padres beat the Cubs 3-0, so a third game tomorrow. Guardians beat the Tigers 6-1, Game 3 winner take all tomorrow. Red Sox, Yankees right now 2-2, and the 5th tonight, the Reds and Dodgers are going to play in Los Angeles. Got a text message from 314 says about Oliver Marmol. Nobody likes a yes man. He can't be trusted to stand up to upper management. The last manager did that, and see what happened. All right. I disagree because, you know what? I will address this text message in a moment. I believe, do we have Bernie Mickles available? We were efforting him. Bernie says he is connected. Bernie, are you there? Do we have you? We're not hearing you, Bernie. So you know what? We'll give you a call real quick and we'll get you on via phone. If you can, I think Bernie can hear me, but I can't hear him. So we'll just call Bernie and we'll get him on here in just a moment or so. So just a quick response to that. Ollie saw the guy in front of him, who I think Oliver Marmol and Mike Schilt are very like-minded, and probably there are issues that happened inside the organization. And Ollie saw the guy before him get fired, so he probably took a different stance. But this was a guy that basically, after every start that Eric Fetty made for a while, was basically calling for changes to be made and for Michael McGree to be called up, doing that openly. So if you didn't recognize that and you didn't see the public nature of basically going against your bosses a little bit, I disagree with that. And I think a lot of stuff is done behind closed doors that you don't see. So he wasn't going to go to the extent that he was going to lose his job, but I think there were some differences there that he dealt with. All right, let's bring Bernie Mickles on. Hey, Bernie, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, man. Good to be with you as always, man.
Well, I've been thinking about this because I've been disappointed that a really cool day for the organization and a really cool day for Chaim Bloom was turned into a percentage of the Cardinals fan base, a vocal minority, but still a large, not a tiny minority, and a very loud minority, being very upset that Oliver Marmol is going to return, even though we saw that coming. And I was thinking about you because you have been in this market for so long. Have you ever experienced a situation where basically everybody who covers the Cardinals and is around the Cardinals, we all see what Oliver Marmol is doing, and we like Oliver Marmol. We think he's the right guy. Not that he's perfect, but we see the people around him are very much in favor of him being back. Yet so much of the fan base is so vehemently against it. Have you ever seen that dynamic play out in the city as much as it is with Ollie?
Well, it's funny because, there's a stat that I always put out there and a lot, and people ignore it because the haters, and listen, they just hate Marmol for reasons that have really nothing or very little to do with baseball. He's an easy punching bag because John Mozeliak hired him. I mean, that's the bottom line. Even though Ollie Marmol has been a Cardinal his entire professional life, starting in 2007, 19 years as a Cardinal. You think that would be some respect, but it's like, oh, he didn't deserve the job. He took the same path to the manager's job that Mike Schilt took. Same exact path, working his way up through the minors, coach at the major league level. But yet Ollie is viewed as some kind of flunky who, didn't somehow, earn the job. Well, he only got the job because they fired Schilt. Yeah, and how did Mike Schilt get the job, geniuses? Because they fired Mike Matheny. So I'm not sure what the difference is or what kind of point you're even making there. His first 4 years as the Cardinals manager, Ollie Marmol has got a .502 winning percentage. Tony La Russa's first 4 years as Cardinal manager had a .493 winning percentage. But yet, Marmol gets no respect, not even consideration for respect. Even though his first 4 years here as a manager, compared to Tony La Russa, who had an unbelievable amount of talent on that roster for the first 4 years, even though Ollie Marmol's teams won more games and had a higher winning percentage. But yet, does this matter to the hate mob? No. because this isn't about facts. This isn't about the fact that the last 2 years, the Cardinals, I always write and talk about how Ollie Marmol does a brilliant job with the bullpen. And as the kids say, I got the receipts. I mean, I'm a research nut. Everybody knows that. And the Cardinals' bullpen performance the last 2 years is fantastic. In fact, based on my research, they've never had a 2-year period where the bullpen was so good. Now, that stuff isn't accidental. That stuff just doesn't happen. You have to have a manager that knows what he's doing with it. And Ollie Marmol, if people pay attention, which sometimes I wonder if they do because they're on Twitter or X all the time trying to think with some snark. You know, they're not actually watching the games. But the research I've been doing, there's never been a Cardinal bullpen like in back-to-back years that was this good over a 2-year period. And, you know, I'm privy to some other information I can't share about, you know, I won't even get into it, but there's an independent evaluator who does this incredibly comprehensive deep dive on how teams use their bullpens, whether they're doing it right. And the last 2 years, the Cardinals have been in the top 2. But yet, if you ask any of these haters, they'll just say, what are you talking about? He sucks. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's doing with the bullpen. Oh, so I guess those guys just decided when, you know, all the individual relievers, I guess they decided to put themselves in or what? Or you know, it's just ridiculous. So I just think, and I heard the text message you got, you know, all that is a lazy narrative.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, he's a puppet. He doesn't challenge management. He challenges management all the time.
Yep.
And the other thing is that the people that say that about any manager, they're profoundly ignorant because they don't realize or they won't accept that the manager's job in Major League Baseball has changed substantially and dramatically. It's more of a collaboration, the all-powerful, all-knowing, get out of my way, I'm running everything. Those managers don't exist anymore. What is it about this market where, you know, everything is like 1966 or whatever? You know? I mean, Bruce Bochy, when he came out of retirement, he took the job in Texas and he promised them that he would, you know, buy into analytics and he would work closely with Chris Young and he wouldn't have like the power that he had in San Francisco. The job has changed. So what is wrong with these people that are just like years and years and years behind how the manager's job works now? And, you know, we had this thing on the Gas House Gang where Ollie Marmol was basically using the Gas House Gang to send messages and basically say, well, I don't make the roster decisions. We want McGreevy up here. Mm-hmm. If that's not challenging your boss, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
How many major league managers go on the rights holder station like 2 or 3 times and make it clear he's not happy that Michael McGreevy isn't up here? And he makes it a point to let everyone know, well, I don't make decisions on the roster. That's not my authority. And by the way, that applies to every manager in baseball. So what? But he doesn't push back on management. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, good point. He only goes on KMOX like 3 times during the season to make it clear he wants McGreevy, and he's frustrated he doesn't have him.
Yeah.
But no, he's never challenged anybody. Yeah. People are lazy, and you got to come up with a better narrative. You got to be more informed. Then I'll take your opinion seriously.
We're 30 or so hours post the Chaim Bloom presser. I know you've probably spent some time kind of reflecting upon what was heard. We did an immediate reaction yesterday, but as some hours have passed since then, and you have done that reflection, is there anything that's kind of stuck with you even more?
Well, I'm going to have to go back in my history, and I did a video about this today. You know, when I heard Chaim Bloom talk about, you know, how this thing's going to work, and, you know, there were several choice excerpts, and I'm sure you played all of them. In fact, I know you did, but I don't have time to read them, and you know what I'm talking about. The way he laid out his vision and like what's important, you know, but not going to take shortcuts, no doing these things for short-term gains. It's all about long-term. Every decision will be what's best long-term for the Cardinals. It was music to my ears because it's exactly what the Cardinals want. And anybody that would criticize that, what they're basically saying, what they're saying is that they're okay with the way things have been operating around here. Contradiction, anyone? Anyway, they need this kind of fresh start. But what struck me is it resonated with me because when Bill DeWitt hired Jeff Luhnow in the early aughts, and nobody understood what he was doing, and I was confused, but I wanted to at least try to find out. I met with Bill DeWitt for 2 hours, and he laid out exactly why he brought in Jeff Luhnow. And that vision about how you really need to build a franchise or sustain winning is the same exact stuff that Chaim Bloom's going to emphasize. And so to me, Bill, like I put the title, at least on social media, of my videos, like Bill DeWitt goes back to the future, hires Chaim Bloom, ideal fit for the job, with echoes of Jeff Luhnow. And it is. I mean, Bill DeWitt, I said this all last year and a half, whatever. He brought Jeff Luhnow in, and he revolutionized the way the Cardinals were drafting and developing and analytics for the first time, all that stuff. They'd never done that before, and he helped put them on top. He gave them an edge with that. And I said, DeWitt's done this before, and I think he'll do it again. And say hello to Chaim Bloom. He's gone back in time. He said, well, listen, I did it once. We're going to do it again. We just got to find the right guy. And he found the right guy who's very strong in player development, finding value on the market, developing young players, just a flow, as he said, of good young talent. So I think Bill DeWitt actually went back to his past to try to save the future, if that makes sense. No, and I really mean that.
Yeah, I think it makes total sense. And I hope to continue kind of down that line of conversation here throughout the offseason as we see things. Bernie, always appreciate you taking a few moments with us before we let you go. I know you've got something to share when it comes to Saliga Heating and Cooling.
Yeah, absolutely. See, you got me going, man. You got me wound up. I was kind of sleepy before I came on here today. So anyway, I love it. I'm only kidding you. Bernie Nicholas here on behalf of Saliga Heating and Cooling. It's a Daikin Comfort dealer. We have been clients of Saliga since I was going to say St. Louis families have been calling Saliga since 1927. We're kind of late to this because we've only been a Saliga client for like the last 17 years. And Dan Saliga, fourth generation owner operator, I love the family business. They're so proud of it. Dan Saliga is upholding these very high standards. He's improved it through time, with like the latest in technology and the latest in, how to repair things and how new equipment that does different things that maybe 20, 30 years ago didn't exist. He keeps it up to date. But what we have found is that they always look for low-cost solutions to save us money. They don't start with trying to pitch something really expensive. Because if they don't think we need something really expensive, they say, no, you don't need that. This will solve the problem. And it's usually something that is relatively inexpensive. And so we trust their integrity, their honesty, their professionalism, their knowledge, the way they are when they're in your home, total class. It's just a first-rate business, first-class business. And I also, quick before I go, I recommend Saliga's Priority Club. It's a maintenance plan that's going to save you money by extending the life of your current equipment. So to get more information, you can go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. The phone number's there. But for all they do, to find out more, go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
The Bernie Nicholas Report on KMOX is sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin Comfort dealer.
With Fidelity Wealth Management, a dedicated advisor gets to know you and your goals to build a comprehensive plan to help grow and protect your wealth. Backed by a team of specialists, they'll analyze all your accounts, even the ones they don't manage, to keep an eye on taxes and provide proactive portfolio insights that can help you unlock your wealth's full potential. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
It's easy to feel apprehensive about getting screened for cancer or to just keep putting it off. But Siteman Cancer Center wants to remind you how important it is, especially after the age of 40. And they also want you to know how easy it is to get it done. GetScreenedNow.com has all the information you need on cancers like prostate, breast, colon, lung cancer. You can also find out your risk of disease by answering just a few simple questions. And then you can find one of the hundreds of screening locations.
USTL.edu.
The countdown to kickoff starts here. Friday's focus on Mizzou, the Chiefs, and the NFL, only on KMOX.
It's Graybar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name's Matt Pauley. We're going to move away from our baseball conversation for just a few minutes, but we're going to jump back in with that in a little while, as we'll take you till 8 o'clock this evening. I want to talk a little City SC for just a moment, as they're coming off a 3-0 loss against LAFC this past weekend, and they're going to be on the road to take on Austin coming up. We're very happy to welcome on to the program. She's part of the team at Apple TV and MLS Season Pass, working as a host and analyst. She is Kaylin Kyle. You follow her on Twitter at KAYLYNKYLE. Kaylin, thanks so much for taking a few moments with us today. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so this is a City team that seemingly was kind of on a little bit of a roll with 2 straight wins, but then they hit a 3-0 loss against LAFC this past weekend, and it feels like that was just a chance to kind of see the talent deficit between a team like City and a team like LAFC that's got some really good players at the top of their roster.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, you look at the roster and you look at your DP signings, and it's no disrespect to the DP signings at St. Louis, but it is obviously very, very different. You bring in a Son, you bring in, your Denny Bouangas, and you see how electric their attack. I think they have 17 goals in the last consecutive goals for their team. So it is alarming and electric what they're doing there. And then you are taking on an Austin side this coming Saturday that's obviously playing in the U.S. Open Cup final against Nashville tonight. So they're going to throw everything at that because it's a chance for a trophy. You've already been eliminated. So it's a difficult situation in St. Louis, but it's also a great point as well because it's one of the city markets here in North America. And it's been nice for me as a Canadian kind of learning about St. Louis and the geographic and how many players have come from St. Louis and almost, I know people call it the soccer capital of America. And then just seeing, the stadium and the fans and the fan support through the good, bad, and ugly. You guys have such a good thing going. You just need a deeper squad in order to be, really competitive here in Major League Soccer. And I think a lot of teams in MLS are starting to see that. I mean, you look at the East, you look at the West, you look at the top 6 teams. It's so close right now. I mean, maybe even top 9 teams. We saw Chicago last night dominate Inter-Miami, a 5-3 win. But it's really proving and showing, when you get your DPs right, when you get your town players right, and you get your middle of your roster right, you can be so competitive here in Major League Soccer.
It's really good to hear that what you said about the city and about the market, even though that this is 2 straight years of the product not being that good. How appealing can that be, as this is an organization right now that's going to be looking to add players, looking to add key pieces in the organization, whether they bring in a head coach from the outside or keep Critchley, they're still looking for a sporting director, just the reputation that goes along with this market and the fans and everything. How appealing is that to individuals coming in?
Huge. I mean, we talked to Taylor Twellman a lot. He's obviously, loves St. Louis and loves what you guys are creating there. And I was really lucky. It was probably a year and a half ago, I got to talk to one of your owners from St. Louis. She was amazing. And just what they entail about not only the club. Yes, they're passionate about football. Yes, they're passionate about soccer, but they really want to create a family dynamic. And I think that is so important. You look at some of the most successful teams here in Major League Soccer, and it's first and foremost, yes, you can sign these big players, but if they don't feel comfortable as if it's a family, it's really hard to succeed. And I think, you're seeing that with Zenny Bouanga in LAFC. You're seeing that with Thomas Mueller with the Vancouver Whitecaps. You bring in a phenomenal coach that instills confidence in these players and instills this family dynamic, and you get the best out of these players, because sometimes you don't see that with European talent. When they come over to North America, it's really difficult. You're seeing it with Anders Dreyer in San Diego as well. He never even came to North America, first and foremost. The first time he touched down here is when he signed actually with the team. But when you can have a GM, you can create a culture, you have a great coaching staff that, creates this family dynamic in and behind these players. These players, again, I feel like we have to remind each other that these are humans at the end of the day. Yes, they're on these multi-million-dollar contracts. They're on great contracts here in Major League Soccer. But at the end of the day, you're only going to be as good as your teammate, and you're only going to be as good as your head coach and manager and GM and sporting director and the tea lady that serves you your dinner and breakfast.
Your soccer background is incredible. Canadian national team, 101 international appearances. You also played in the NWSL, and I wasn't planning on talking about this, but when I read your bio and saw that, I wanted to, because St. Louis has been rumored as win the NWSL. And for people listening who don't know, that's the women's professional league for soccer in North America, the United States. St. Louis has been rumored as maybe an expansion team or expansion market for that league. Having the familiarity with the league that you do you feel like that would be a good fit?
Take me out of retirement. I'd sign there any day of the week. If you want a 37-year-old, my birthday's on Monday, no problem whatsoever. 100%. I think it's an absolute no-brainer. You look at the training facility for the men's, you look at the stadium for the men's, it's in Soccer City, it's downtown, it's connected. And speaking to a couple of the players on St. Louis men's team, they're like, it's unbelievable what they've done in a really short amount of time here to create this amazing professional culture and dynamic. So to get a women's team, obviously I'm a huge supporter of the women's league and huge supporter of the cities getting it right, because I don't like when people just buy in to own a women's team to be like, yeah, I own a women's team. You want people that are passionate about women's sport, passionate about, female athletes, and especially growing the game here in the NWSL, and you're seeing it grow significantly. You look at Kansas City Current, for example, you get big time owners that give you your first ever female specific soccer stadium. And you don't necessarily need to do that in order to be successful, but look at how successful they are in the short amount of time. It's that culture that I always talk about. You instill a great culture in a club, and genuinely you can have a mediocre team and go on to win it because it's players wanting to fight for one another. So hell yes, St. Louis, get a women's team. I'll be there first game of the season.
Love it. Love that. Just a couple games left in the regular season. And then before we know it, we're going to see MLS postseason. A lot of people in St. Louis going to be kind of neutral observers, but they can do it via Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. Give a plug for everything you guys have going on, because just because the city season is going to be over soon doesn't mean that it's when you guys really gear up and start doing some even more special things.
Look, I'm extremely lucky to be in a job that you can go in and you genuinely love. I know a lot of people in the world aren't given that opportunity. I'm so grateful, and it has to do with my colleagues. Obviously, we have Kevin Egan, Sasha Question, Bradley Wright Phillips, Dax McCarty, and everyone behind the screens and the TVs making us look good. But we make it fun, like 360. We have banter. We take the piss out of one another. I mean, me and Sasha are like an old married couple. We rip into one of each other. Me and B are best friends. Dax is like the new boy in town. He's, bottom of MLS 360 Golden Boot right now. If you don't know what that is, basically we pick a goal scorer every match day to see who scores, top of the leader. Anyways, we win a trophy at the end of the year. And then Kevin Egan's like our dad. So you tune into 360. We have like behind the scenes stuff. We have player interviews. We have This is MLS midweek with Kevin, Sasha, and Bradley Wright Phillips that, interview a player or a coach every week. That's on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. And then we're going to be doing some cool little features heading into the FIFA World Cup in 2026 with a lot of American Canadians that are already playing in the league. So that's something as well to be looking forward to on MLS Season Pass.
Kaylin, great to get to know you a little bit. Thank you so much for taking this time, and hopefully we can chat again down the line.
No, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Very good. That's Kaylin Kyle joining us from Apple TV and MLS Season Pass, works as an analyst on the MLS 360 show. We'll jump back into baseball. We'll do that coming up in just a moment. It's the Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Looking for a place to call home without all the maintenance? Check out the Towns of Linneman Park.
Flotsam residents. Check us out online at fairwindsriversedge.com. We hope to talk with you soon.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Back at it on KMOX. It is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Coming up after the 7 o'clock news, we're going to open up the phone lines at 314-436-7900. If you want to chime in on what you heard from Heim yesterday, chime on Heim. How about that? That could be like a segment because it's time to chime on Heim. Or Heim chimes. I was on with Chris and Amy the other day, and we were doing word plays on Heim because everybody does It's Heim time, which Kyle Sixt is here. I saw that our good friend Jim the Cat Hayes from FanDuel Sports Network Midwest put out a social media message today indicating that he was the first one to go with It's Heim time, and he's going to aggressively pursue, from a legal standpoint, people who use that term that he has a trademark on.
There you go, Mr. Cat. Grab that trademark.
Yeah, so I tweeted it. Like I felt a little bit attacked in the moment because yesterday I took a picture of Heim Bloom and tweeted it out and said, it's Heim time. So is he coming at me?
He might be.
Is he coming at me? I don't know. I've said this a million times, but for those who have not heard, this is my favorite one. The folks in Boston, like the fans who loved Heim Bloom and were just like Heim Bloom truthers, for lack of a better term, they were known as the Bloominati.
Ooh,
I think that's good.
That's good.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like I think it was the day after the Cardinal season ended, or maybe it was our Thursday one going into it was the day after they got eliminated from playoff contention. My Chris and Amy hit was literally just us spending time going with various plays on Heim Bloom's name.
That's awesome. I'll do some thinking.
Okay. Yeah. So, and hopefully, John Mozeliak was very gracious with his time here to KMOX and all media outlets for that matter. He was out there. I would expect it to largely be the same with Heim. So we can, if we have segments with him, we can maybe, bill him like that.
Yeah. A little test trial. See what he likes.
Speaking of that, and again, I'm not just like trying to attack people. That's not what I'm doing, but I get frustrated. I need to do something. So I'm an admin on the KMOX Sports Facebook account, like most people, so that way I can post or whatever on there. I have an Apple Watch. So when people like reply to stuff on KMOX Sports, my watch goes off. It's terrible, Kyle. It's terrible. My entire life is my watch going off and me seeing, the first 12 words of a comment, and I know where it's going, and it just wears. I really need to turn these notifications off.
Matt, for your sanity,
yes.
You need to turn those notifications off.
It's terrible. It is so bad. So it's just constant. Yesterday, I was actually I close. Do you have an Apple Watch?
I do not.
Okay, I'm really from a fitness standpoint, you try to close your rings, is what it's called, where you get a certain amount of calories every day, a certain amount of stand hours, and a certain amount of exercise minutes and things like that. I'm really, really big into closing my rings. I have a streak going that's impressive. So we were getting so many comments on the Facebook page yesterday. I was actually worried that my Apple Watch was going to lose power before I could get home, and that I would not close my rings because the watch wouldn't be able to recognize my movement and things like that. That was my worry yesterday. Maybe I worry about the wrong things.
Chill out, people.
Yeah. So that was I was going somewhere. Oh yeah, this is where I'm going. Real quickly. I saw a lot of people say on social media coming at us here at KMOX, oh, you're only saying nice things about Oliver Marmol because you want to keep him showing up to Gas House Gang every Tuesday. That's the only reason you do it. That's not true. A, that's not true. B, we'd be okay. We would be okay if Ollie did not show up every Tuesday for Gas House Gang during the season. It would be a bummer. We love having him. It's really, really cool. I think it's great for the fans, but our livelihood here at KMOX, with all due respect to Oliver Marmol, is not connected to his 30 minutes every Tuesday during the season. We would be okay. And then the third thing, and just kind of an insight, Ollie actually pushes for tougher questions during those Tuesday conversations. And I'm being 100% genuine, 100% honest on this. I know for a fact that he does not want those conversations to be just softball after softball after softball thrown at him. He wants to explain the tough decisions. He wants to go through everything. He wants to be challenged. And that is essentially what he asked of us here at KMOX going into that. So the idea that we're not asking he wants the tough questions. That's what the man wants. And I think we did a pretty good job of that on Tuesdays. More after the 7 o'clock news. It's Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Attention business owners with a net income over $500,000. You need
Right now, some clouds. It is 77 downtown at the Gateway Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Back at it as we get into hour number 2 of the program. Daniel Guerrero is going to join us in about 15 minutes. Cardinals beat writer with the Post-Dispatch and STL Today. We'll get his thoughts on what we all saw and heard yesterday at the Hein Bloom press conference. This is the opportunity for you to chime in. We'll kind of split it up. So this segment and then the segment after we talk with Daniel. If you've got thoughts, we'll open up the phone lines, the text message line, tweets, everything. You can call or text 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. Call or text. You can tweet at me at Matt Pauley on air, MattPauley on air, or you can leave a comment on the video chat. And I've been wanting to get to this. We finally have. Again, yesterday wasn't really the day for it because we just had so much content from Hein Bloom, but we finally do have time now. So whatever your reactions are to what we heard from Hein yesterday, this is the chance to get in here. I thought this got a couple notes on Jordan Walker. So Verla sent in a message on the video stream, says, still being committed to Walker was the worst thing to come out of the press conference. I am good with the rest of it. And then we got a text message from the 618 that said, I think the plan will be for Walker to spend a whole lot of time in Memphis next year. He only has one option year left, and it's probably not a coincidence that they let him struggle up here all season long instead of sending him down and burning the last option. I don't think they're ready to give up on him, but they had to bite the bullet this year if they wanted flexibility next year. Yeah, so those two kind of interesting points on Walker. And Verlis, this is why you remain committed, like in air quotes. This is why when I say committed, I mean you don't get him out of the organization. When I say committed, it doesn't mean he has a job on the big league roster next year. This is why you do that. He still has the opportunity, if he ever figures it out, to be a profoundly impactful baseball player. And I know some people just don't want to hear that, because what we watched this year was a bad baseball player. Jordan Walker had a bad year. And it wasn't just like some guys have bad years hitting, but they do other things well. If we're being blunt and honest, Jordan Walker didn't do much of anything well this year. He had periods of time where the at-bats looked better. And that is essentially the nicest thing I can say about the year that Walker had. And I'm not trying to beat up on the guy. I'm not trying to take shots at him. I'm just, the numbers are what the numbers are. He had a terrible offensive season, and he wasn't any good in the outfield defensively, and seemingly he got worse in the outfield as the season went along. So I understand people who just watch the year go along and say, this is somebody that I don't want to see being here. But when you get under the hood a little bit and you see all the parts that could potentially make him a really impactful player, how hard he hits the ball, bat speed, just all that. You can't just like give up on him right now. Now, does that for sure mean that he's ever going to put it all together and he's ever going to be that impactful baseball player? No, doesn't mean that at all. Doesn't mean that at all. But to me, it would be malpractice if you just move on from him right now without giving him every opportunity to turn into that. That doesn't mean it happens at the big league level. I kind of agree with the texter. I think he's earmarked for AAA next year. I think he would have to go above and beyond in spring training to have a job on the major league roster next year. Let's grab KC, who's given us a call. Hey, KC, you are on a Sports Open Line.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Doing all right.
Matt, I've been a Cardinal fan. I'm 73 years old. I've been a Cardinal fan all my life. In fact, I got a chance to be invited to a Cardinal camp as a player tryout. And when I played ball at Grambling State University, I tore my ACL. So therefore, my baseball career was pretty much ended back then. But anyway, what I just want to say is that St. Louis fans they've been spoiled. We've been spoiled over the years, and we've been given a lot. and had a lot of championship, as you can see by all the flags that fly in the stadium. And I said, so we just have to sit back and stop crying like little babies and be a little patient and let this thing work itself out. Yeah, we're going to struggle for a little bit. There's going to be times when we're going to have a little time where it's going to be a little painful. We're going to see some maybe new ball players or some young ball players that's going to struggle a little bit. I wouldn't give up on Walker. Walker's young. You know, he's got to work through some things, but we just got to stop crying out and being like little babies, because we've been so blessed over the years that now it's going to be a time when we're going to struggle. There's a lot of teams over the years that don't have it as good as we've had it. So I just want to tell the St. Louis fans that just chill out a little bit. You know, this thing will eventually work its way out. Yeah, we're not going to go into the playoffs maybe next year or maybe the year after that. But eventually, Bloom is going to get this thing together, and we're going to be back to one of the top teams in the National League, and we're going to be back in the playoffs. But we just got to stop being like little babies and crying all the time when something don't go our way.
All right, Casey, I appreciate the phone call. I do get a little bit uncomfortable with what I've seen so much over the last day, where people have said, well, I'm not showing up to the ballpark next year because Oliver Marmold's going to be the manager. Really? Like that was a cue off of something that Bill DeWitt III said, because Bill said message received in terms of fans not showing up. That got weaponized a little bit yesterday, I think, where people are saying, oh, you received the message? Well, Ollie's back. I'm not going to show up to the ballpark. And that, I don't try to tell fans how to be fans, but I read those messages and I just didn't love them. Chuck has given us a call. Hey, Chuck, you're on Sports Open Line.
Hey, Matt. So I think they received the message, and Chaim Bloom doing everything he's doing is part of the message. And I'm a big Ollie fan. I thought, what he did with what he had to work with, it was magic, man. I mean, he pulled stuff out of those guys when they kept taking, key pieces away from him. He kept finding a way to keep us in the game and keep winning. So I'm a big Ollie fan. I can't wait to see what he does when he has some talent on the roster. That's a good thing. And I'm also stoked about what Chaim Bloom has been able to do in the development stage for our younger players. And I'm curious to see what, that's going to do for Jordan Walker and his development and some of the other young guys we got coming, like J.J. Weatherholt and some of the other, guys that really have potential to come up here and make an impact.
Yeah, appreciate the phone call, Chuck. And I think you look at, in 1 year of Chaim Bloom overseeing the player development system, the Cardinals have just gone up big time in prospect rankings and organizational rankings from the outlets that cover that. And nobody's winning a World Series because they won minor league organization of the year. I get that, but honestly, it's inexcusable that the Cardinals were not giving young players in the minor league system the instruction and everything else that they need to make them the best version of themselves. And the process of making that happen is already easily in place. We'll grab one more phone call this segment, then we'll get back to phone calls after we talk with Daniel Guerrero. Daryl, I've got just a quick moment for you, but you are on Sports Open Line.
Well, what I have to say will take one full minute and hopefully no more. I'm not on board with people that take a reflexively brainless reaction of no new blood, then I'm not showing up next year. However, I am speaking up on behalf of the quote-unquote geniuses, as Bernie put it, that were screaming at the radio in the numbers of hundreds of thousands when someone puts John King in, when we all know that John King was going to blow either the lead or a very close game, scratching your heads going, what the hell is this guy thinking? Now, the good news is he's like La Russa in that he can back up his decisions with data. La Russa backed up his decisions with rationale that we could follow. However, there is still something to be said about metrics being a tool and not the tool. I, and I'm sure plenty of other people, would prefer to have someone at the helm who has actually played the game. Therefore, it's a strike, in my opinion, against Chaim Bloom and Bernie, that Chaim Bloom decided that he didn't even need to have a cup of coffee or even a brief conversation with Skip Schumacher. That is unwarranted arrogance. That is thoughtless.
Are you a Mike Schilt guy?
I liked Mike Schilt. Again, I liked Mike Schilt because of the sentence I used earlier. He looks at metrics as a tool, not the tool. Where Marmol is the press button, the tool is metrics guy.
I would disagree with that. I don't really want to argue that right now. I disagree with that. But the one thing you said was, I mean, Ali had a better professional playing career than Mike Schilt did.
I don't care. I'm looking at Skip Schumacher. It's a very good diversionary tactic on your part, but the fact that
I thought you were taking I'm not trying. No. I was not. I thought you were taking a shot at Ali for having never played Major League Baseball. That's the way I took that. It's not a diversionary tactic.
I want someone at the helm who's played the game at a high level versus someone who is just who has not.
Okay, so I get the Skip. Okay, I get the Skip Schumacher thing, and he was a big league player and a very good big league player. But why does Schilt get the pass and Ali doesn't when it comes to that being such an important thing to you?
Because of what I just said, I don't think Mike Schilt is as reliant on metrics as Marmol was or is. Excuse me.
Okay. You might be right. You might be right. Schilt might not be as reliant as Ali is. I don't know if I'd say reliant, but I think Ali goes by his gut more than fans give him credit for. But I also understand what you're saying. I'm not trying to be dismissive of what you're saying, Daryl.
I have no evidence to believe that he has experiential or gut level reactions to certain situations. I think he just backs it up with pure data, and that's a shame to me.
Okay, Daryl, I appreciate the phone call. I appreciate the conversation as well. Thank you. Okay, we'll get more phone calls like that coming up in a while. 314-436-7900. Just in my conversations with Ali, man, he's a lot more old school than he gets credit for. He just is. And he's somebody who, coming up in all those years of being in the Cardinals organization, does he try to take every bit of information that's out there and utilize it as a tool? Of course he does. But like the iPad Ali thing, I don't think that's fair. I just don't. But like, I always try to be understanding of people who have opposing views of mine. I do understand how people can get on that path and have that belief, even if I think it is incorrect and not true. More phone calls like that, and we'll take some more text messages and tweets after we talk with Daniel Guerrero from Post Dispatch and STL Today. That's next. It's the Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
You've got a ton of equity in your home. You're sitting
2 p.m. Registration 1:30 p.m.
Total Information AM. Weekdays 5 to 9 on the voice of St. Louis. 104.1 FM. KMOX.
A Great Bar Sports Open Line rolls on right here on KMOX. My name's Matt Pauley. Have you till about 8 o'clock tonight. The soccer showcase, city showcase. City Spotlight. There we go. I can't remember the name of shows here. City Spotlight's going to be on beginning after the 8 o'clock hour. Jen Cease will join. I'll talk to her a little bit towards the end of the show. But right now, happy to talk with a guy who covers the Cardinals for the Post-Dispatch and STL today. Yesterday was one of those days where it was cool to be part of kind of the industrial media complex because so much great content came out of yesterday with the Chaim Bloom press conference and everything that went along with it. And the Post-Dispatch and STL Day right there in the middle of it. Great stuff from them. And hopefully you were able to take it in. Daniel Guerrero, one of the beat writers covering the team. He was at the press conference yesterday. Daniel, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing good, Matt. Thanks for the invite.
What we'll start broad and kind of narrow in as you sat through a press conference yesterday, and then the print media got some time with Chaim later on in the day. What really stuck out to you about yesterday's information that we received from Chaim Bloom?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like you had mentioned. It felt really much like a landmark day in the organization, just because it's a changing of the guard in the front office, right? Where John Mozeliak held that position for, as long as he did, and now Chaim Bloom takes over. And I think a lot of it just kind of felt like the start of kind of like this building back to trying to get the Cardinals to where they have been historically. Obviously, there's going to be, this focus on building this young core and seeing that rise, but also, not conceding, as kind of it was put, not conceding results, in the 2026 season and in the years to come. So I think that definitely felt very much like, okay, kind of this is what fans and us as media should, kind of expect to see from the club. Hearing from a new voice with Chaim Bloom, obviously interesting just because we hadn't talked to Chaim outside of last year's press conference, right? When they announced the sort of the succession plan for what was to come after the 2025 season. So, I mean, I think there was a lot of interesting kind of just details on just kind of how the Cardinals will operate in the years to come. Some more info just kind of on how the farm system has developed. Some info just kind of on what the approach this offseason might look like with, Bloom's first offseason now that he's the president of baseball ops. So there was a lot to take in, but definitely kind of just felt like this new voice and kind of this new landscape with the organization.
So yesterday he did the press conference, then he did some TV interviews. He talked to some of the rights holders in podcast form. And he talked to John Rooney with us. I got the chance for a few minutes. And then later after that, it was my understanding that he spent time with print media. A lot of the stuff that we've read today has come out of that conversation as opposed to the press conference that was on TV and on radio. For folks that what was that like? Can you kind of explain the dynamic of that conversation that all the writers had with him yesterday?
Yeah, it was just kind of this other opportunity for us to kind of expand and kind of touch on some of the other bigger picture topics and kind of things that were talked about in the press conference I was broadcasting, up from the podium. And but yeah, so there was a lot to come out of it. I think there was also kind of this opportunity to just kind of obviously, it wasn't, one-on-ones, but kind of this group setting where we're also able to kind of get to know a little bit of Chaim more so than we already have. So that also was a kind of a great opportunity. But I mean, there were, a bunch of different topics touched on. I think, one of the things that kind of stood out, especially with Chaim Bloom, really helping the Cardinals kind of overhaul their minor league system, which is a lot of what he spent, kind of auditing as an advisor. And we've seen some of those changes now. That was some of the other things that we touched on, right, with kind of how he, feels that, sometimes prospects need, some extra seasoning in AAA and, not having to rush guys. Talked a little bit about JJ Weatherholt and just kind of the promise that he kind of brings to the organization. Talk, a little bit about just kind of how the starting pitching market might shape up in free agency and the Cardinals' approach, because there are openings in the starting rotation, and obviously that would be something up for contention with some of the young guys pushing for big league roster spots, but also sometimes you might need a kind of a veteran guy to kind of lock down a spot and provide you some stability in that rotation, for a rotation that could look a lot younger than it has this year.
Yeah, he made it very clear yesterday that the decisions they're making are going to be long-term decisions. But if there's a scenario where they trade Sonny Gray away, they're going to need some help in the rotation. Even if they don't, they're likely to bring in somebody for the short term. How many short-term moves will they make, knowing that so much of the focus is what's going to happen beyond this upcoming season?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, just because, and I think this kind of goes back to what Bill DeWitt Jr. had mentioned during the press conference, was that in a question in regards to payroll, and that's a little bit unknown at the moment. So, I mean, that definitely kind of shapes up how the Cardinals could approach free agency, just in seeing how much they'd be willing to spend. Obviously, that's something that, depending on how the market shakes up, once we get past October and free agency opens up, and see which starting pitchers are on the market, and what kind of that market's going to command. That knowing what the payroll is going to look like, that can kind of shape that a ton. But I think the way they might approach it, I think, just kind of depends on how that's going to look for 2026.
Before you were on the major league beat, you did a lot with the minor leagues. You covered the big leagues a little bit, and you still look at the minor leagues now and player development. A number of publications, when they did their most recent updated rankings, and a lot of this has to do with J.J. Weatherholt and Liam Doyle, but we've seen the Cardinals' prospect and minor league system rankings move up in a large way. How much credit goes to Chaim Bloom for even the infrastructure pieces that were put in this year to allow players to more develop into what maybe they can be, as opposed to the way the Cardinals had been doing it previously?
I think this is a combination of just everybody involved, right? It's not like it was an entirely new minor league developmental staff from, coaches at each level and coordinators at each level. There were obviously additions, but I don't think it was solely like, okay, it only happened because of this, and that's something that I think it just kind of it's really a team effort from everybody involved. Especially when you have some coaches and kind of coordinators that were have been around for such a long time. And when you talk to players and coaches, there's always a lot of different moving parts, a lot of different people involved in their development. And as you mentioned, there was that improvement this year. And like you said, a lot of it has to do with, the prominence of J.J. Weatherholt, the inclusion of Liam Doyle now in the system. I think there are a lot of guys who took a lot of steps forward this year. Leonardo Bernal is one of them, the catching prospect who had spent the entire year in Double-A and was a contributor for that club and key in the Texas League playoffs. Another guy, Joshua Baez, comes to mind. Eshawn Henderson, another guy, a couple of breakouts this year. But I would say that when it comes to just sort of the improvements there, I really do think it's a team effort with not just with the changes that Bloom and the people brought in in this last year have done, but it's just an overall team effort from the system to kind of get it back to what the prominence that it used to have.
He is Daniel Guerrero, covers the Cardinals for the Post-Dispatch and STL Today. It's going to be a really fun offseason, and you can follow along for sure with Daniel and Derek and the great sports columnists like Lynn Worthy and Benjamin Hockman. They just do a great job at the Post-Dispatch. Daniel, we really appreciate you taking some time after a very busy last couple of days with press conferences and everything, and hopefully we can check in with you a few times over the course of the offseason.
Yeah, for sure, Matt. Thank you for the invite.
You bet. Thank you. That's Daniel Guerrero from the Post-Dispatch joining us on the program. We'll jump back into your comments, your phone calls, all of that in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. This is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Hey guys, this is Kevin Wheeler. I want to tell you about 213 Complex.
One 966 5000.
Thursday night, the NFL is on KMOX. The Rams, the 49ers.
Sightman Cancer Center game time 6:30. Sightman Cancer Center, national leaders in cancer.
The Rams, the 49ers on 104.1 FM, KMOX.
It's Great Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley. We are taking you till 8 o'clock this evening. If you want to chime in, you can give us a call or you can text us 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. You can tweet at me at Matt Pauley on air, MattPauley on air. For those of you who are watching on the video stream, you can leave a comment there and we will address that. Steve sends in a message, says, I don't dislike Oliver Marmol. Just think with Mo gone, it's time for a change. I also don't like him wearing his hat backwards on the Gas House Gang. He isn't a kid anymore. I'm not one to chime in on fashion choices. But here's the thing, honestly, there are some people who dislike Oliver Marmol for other reasons, but I'm telling you, there are people who don't like him because he wears a hat backwards. There's people who don't like him because he's not always wearing the jersey, the full uniform in the dugout, or has a hoodie over the top, whatever. Like that exists, and I would indicate that that's not a real reason, but I also appreciate from Steve admitting the bias there and why the bias exists. I also think Steve has the point that is this just a good time for just a clean sweep of changes? Okay, if you want to, that is a legit argument. I disagree with it, but it's a legit argument. I would argue more to the side of, you know what? Let's see what Ollie looks like with a new president of baseball operations who might do things just a little bit differently. Daryl has given us a call. Hey, Daryl, you are on Sports Open Line.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I just want to comment on what's going on with everybody else. As Cardinal fans, we're really pissed. And it would have been nice to have the new management come in and make a change. And we could have say, hey, they're really new sheriff is in town. Things are changing, and would have given us hope to have something new. We're not asking for a world, the best team out there, but we want to see fun baseball again. And we just not seen that in many years.
Who do you blame for that?
Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of blame to go around.
So the point that I'm trying to get to here is, I assume what you're saying is you would rather Oliver Marmol not be the manager of this club. Is that kind of the point that you're making?
Well, I would have liked to saw a change. We've heard the same thing over and over. It's Cardinal. And we're ready for a change. If we saw that change, we would have thought, okay, there's a new sheriff in town. Something's going to happen.
Well, I think there is, and I think we are going to see changes, and I think the big change is going to be Daryl. What would you rather? All the same players but a different manager, or a bunch of new players and the same manager?
And something, okay, they've got a new manager. They're going to do something. We're going to see something different. To me, I don't think we felt like we've seen anything different since maybe 2000.
Yeah. I think that's. I appreciate the phone call, Daryl. Your phone's dropping out just a little bit, so I'm going to let you go. I didn't completely hear the answer to his question because his phone dropped out. I would contend that a roster that looks really, really different, that has the same manager, will feel a lot different than a roster that has. Wait, let me start that over. I don't know if I said that correctly. I would contend that a roster that looks very different with the same manager would play out a lot more differently than a roster with the same players but a different manager. There's been a lot of talk today about Skip Schumacher, and Skip may end up with the Texas Rangers managerial position. He already works in the organization. Bruce Bochy left. The Rangers are about to go into a mode that I think the Cardinals have already been in, where they're going to be dropping payroll and they're going to be readjusting to some things. And Schumacher's there. It makes a lot of sense to give it to Skip. He's been a major league manager, did a nice job in Miami with the Marlins. People don't want to hear this. The similarities between Skip Schumacher and Oliver Marmol are incredible. I can be a smart aleck every once in a while. When Skip was managing in Miami, I read a lot of game stories across Major League Baseball. So I wasn't like searching for this. I just happened to read just about every AP game story about every game that happens in Major League Baseball every day, so I can stay up to date with what's going on. And this wouldn't even apply now because AP doesn't use as many quotes as they did previously. But I would read the stories from the Marlins games when Skip was managing, and he would say something that was basically like verbatim something that Ollie would say, that Ollie would take a ton of grief over, and Skip saying the same thing. There may not be two individuals in Major League Baseball when it comes to managers in baseball who are probably more similar than Oliver Marmol and Skip Schumacher. It is uncanny, and they're very good friends. They think the world of each other. Were they 100% aligned? No, and I'm sure that Skip definitely challenged Ollie at times, and that was probably very good for that. But from a broad stroke standpoint of baseball philosophy, Oliver Marmol and Skip Schumacher are basically the same baseball guy, and that's so. I always chuckle a little bit when there's all these people that are saying, "Oh, it's got to be Skip. It's got to be Skip. He's got to be the guy." Let's go to Jeff, who's given us a call. Hey, Jeff, you are on Sports Open Line.
Good enough. I want to say that this is the first year where I've heard Ollie. I've seen him draw a lot of flack. I found the man to be articulate, intelligent, and empathetic. I think is a big plus in a ball club. However, if you've got a new man coming in, where I work, we would get new general managers then, and they just say, a new broom sweeps clean. I would like to have seen what Yachty would bring in that he was a catcher and he was really into the subtleties. I don't know if he would have added that much. However, I'm not unhappy with Ollie staying because he seemed to be a good team leader and a big plus. And the folks behind the scenes know a lot better than those of us who are out in the crowd.
All right, Jeff. Appreciate the phone call. I don't know what the future is going to be with Yadier Molina from a like philosophy standpoint, from a going through the games. Yadier Molina is one of the smartest baseball players who has ever played the game, and that is going to serve him incredibly well if he is ever a major league manager. From a strategy standpoint, the stuff that a manager does control, I think Yadi's going to be great in that area. It's a lot more to being a manager than just managing for 2.5 hours every night. And there's more than just baseball stuff. And I think the question that Yadi's going to have to ask himself if he ever really does pursue a Major League Baseball managerial job is, does he want to do all those other things? I don't totally know the answer to that question. I understand why fans love him so much, rightfully so. But I think there are some questions that still need to be answered. And that's why I said earlier that I think Albert might actually be more suited to be a big league manager. Just because I have no questions about Poulos' Poulos' willingness. That's a better word. Poulos' willingness to go meet with the media 4 times a day. And that's essentially that's one of the many things that a major league manager does beyond managing a game. Frank's giving us a call. Hey, Frank, you're on Sports Open Line.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm a long-time fan of the Cardinals, season ticket holder. We gave up our group seats, front row, third base dugout, but it wasn't because of the performance. There were other reasons, schedule-wise, with the group I've got. But I just wanted to take a different perspective, more from a CEO standpoint. The budget is everything. The Cardinals have some major, major challenges. You do a great job. You guys do a great job of marketing the team. I think Chaim Bloom will, in the long run, be great. But if I'm the Cardinals, I'm going to build financial models on what happens with the different revenue streams, whether it's, the attendance is declining, probably going to go down again. How does that affect, all the advertising revenue, the in-stadium revenue, all these different things. But I would throw out another scenario, because the Cardinals really maybe have one guy that could be in the starting 5 next year. You can argue that all day long. But some teams have 5 guys that are stronger than our entire starting 5. And I know Bernie's saying we can't spend money on pitching. It's not the time. But why not build a financial model if you get a 1 and a 2, which will be very expensive and very risky. Pitching in baseball is going to get closer to quarterbacks in the NFL. Anybody with an ERA under 3 is going to make some real money. So that's just my hope. And I think, one caller earlier said, the fans need hope, and I'm sure they're gonna make one big signing for sure. I don't know, outfielder, first baseman, third base. But the pitching is what this game's always been about. If you go back to the 47 to 63, the pitching was never good enough. Same thing after Gibson left and they got rid of Carlton, unfortunately. 70s to 82 was it? And after, and almost every team goes through this.
Yeah, Frank, I appreciate the phone call. I got to get to break here because we're going to be done here in just a few minutes, but really appreciate your thoughts. Pitching's going to be really expensive. Pitching, you're right. And it's not just guys with ERAs below 3 that are going to get paid. It's guys who have ERAs under 4 that get big time money. And the Cardinals would be well suited to start developing their starting pitching, because I'm not of the belief that they're going to be able to acquire it. But payroll isn't the total issue here. And I know it's outliers, but the Mets missed the playoffs with $342 million. The Brewers have the best record in the National League with $120 million payroll. The Brewers have a lot of money invested in the infrastructure side of things. Now, it hasn't won them a championship yet, and I don't think it's going to win them a championship this year, but their payroll is not end all be all. And the Cardinals' payroll this year was more than the Brewers. So it's not that they're not spending enough money. They need to spend money more in a more intelligent kind of way. Last break, come back, wrap up the show. That's Graybar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Hey, this is Charlie Brennan. Have you noticed loose bricks or missing mortar
Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Starting to wrap things up, just a couple minutes left in the program. Good Cardinals conversation. We're tomorrow night, super short show. We have Thursday Night Football, so we'll be done at 6:30, so just 6 to 6:30. But then Friday, we'll pick up this conversation. I'm enjoying this conversation. We're going to kind of organically do this as long as I feel like we need to, as the calls and everything and the text come in, just the reaction to the Hein Bloom press conference. We got lots of time, so we'll continue that. So Friday, looking forward to having more fun, spirited conversations. Appreciate everybody, whether you agree with me or don't agree with me. Definitely appreciate everybody getting in here with the calls and the texts and the tweets and everything. Our good friend Jen Cease is here. She's going to be up just after the 8 o'clock news with City Spotlight. I couldn't remember the name of your show earlier, but it came to me.
Well, last year we called it something different.
I know.
So when we keep changing the name, I can't either.
What's coming up on the program tonight?
Yeah, so actually, I'm really excited. We're going to visit with a young lady named Hope Berkey. I'm going to find out if she's related to Roman Berkey. She's actually a staunch City fan that's in Wisconsin. She's created her own little show called The Berkey Breakdown.
Huh.
Like, I'm so
We're at in Wisconsin.
I think she's in I think it's Madison.
Okay.
But I'm going to find out more. I've
All
been
right.
kind of watching her on socials, and I'm just so impressed by somebody being brave enough to do that at such a young age. We'll talk to Dale, as we always do. The player profile is Mekhi Joyner. So he's having himself a time. He's running for the Golden Boot in MLS Next Pro. And then we'll finish out with Mr. Soccer, Bill McDermott, talking all things soccer.
For people in Wisconsin, I'm trying to there's an MLS team in Minnesota, right? Yeah, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to think, are we the closest non-Chicago team to people in Wisconsin?
No, Minnesotans
but no, Minnesota's closer.
They're very passionate fan base. Yeah.
Well,
because we got Devin Padelford and Songmin from there.
If you are in Wisconsin and you have an anti-Chicago bias and an anti-Minnesota bias, then St. Louis would probably be the closest after that.
So I'm going to find out how that all came down.
That's
and
interesting.
You got to know about the last name, so I'm going to ask.
Okay, very good. So that's coming up in just a few minutes. We'll get the 8 o'clock news with Michael Calhoun, and then Jen will be with you talking all things soccer for the 8 o'clock hour. Thanks so much for being tuned in with us tonight. That's just about going to do it for the program, and we'll be back with you tomorrow for a half hour. Well, first for the rush hour, 5 o'clock, and then a half hour of Sports Open Line tomorrow night, leading to Thursday Night Football here on KMOX.
Attention.